Hi, I want to talk about one of the topics with AuDHD people that I feel like rarely get talked about as much as other things that get talked about. As a person with AuDHD myself that has been in autistic burnout for a really long time, this is something that is deeply in my heart to spread awareness over. The thing to understand is autistic burnout is definitely out of this person's control. And the thing is it isn't the same as a regular burnout. It is considered a severe burnout that truly needs even seeking help with counselors. And it's something that requires extreme, intense amounts of rest and doing your best to lower demands. I want to explain some of the signs by research. I have something to read off that explains what autistic burnout is. These are the signs if you're unsure if you are or a loved one could have autistic burnout. So, autistic burnout is a state of extreme mental, physical, and emotional exhaustion due to stress, sensory overload, or the effort to mask autistic traits. I can tell you this isn't this person's fault if they are in this state, and you need to understand that especially because if they were late diagnosed, this is more likely to happen because that means they spent years of their life masking autistic traits, which is stemming with is what their body needs, which is feeling like comfortable around others because they didn't know that this is why that they didn't feel comfortable. So maybe if they did, things could have been easier as a child or growing up. So then it leads to burnout this bad later in life. And this is what has happened to me in my life. And I've been in autistic burnout for about I'd say couple of years or more, but I've just been in it off and on. It just comes back and forth and it lasts for long periods of time. How it's different from regular burnout. This is the important key. Autistic burnout is longer lasting, affects and requires change in environment, support, and self care. So the thing about that is it can take a couple months to a year for someone to come out of autistic burnout. It could take more than a year, even. It just depends how severe it is. And this is why it's so important to be understanding if someone just seems like they're not able to do what they used to do. And here are the signs to understand that that someone you love could be an autistic burnout. Signs of autistic burnout is increased sensory sensitivity. So that could be along with stimming. It could be more dealing with too many sounds or just way too much, like to an extreme that you just can't handle it. And some of the other things, sensory overload, this also goes with emotional outbursts or shutdowns, is your eyes could feel like you're going to cry often in autistic burnout. That's the difference between a regular burnout compared to a autistic burnout is things is the extreme emotional feeling that you constantly have in your eyes. And that is one thing that I didn't even know I was dealing with for years on end, thinking I was in depression when have learned what autistic burnout is after realizing I'm autistic. I realized that is really what was happening by realizing all of the symptoms of it. That's one thing. I've been stimming a lot more, but I've been a lot in my life. I would feel it come on and I would stop it. But now that I'm learning to unmask because I know my body needs that, now when it happens, I have did my best to focus on making sure that I stim when it comes on because it's actually really important to help us regulate. The next thing is loss of skills, and that's one I've experienced too. Loss of skills as in like things that they once enjoyed and loved doing. Mine was singing, mine's inspiring people online, which that's something I'm still currently doing, but there's times I take a break for a while because I understand how low and serious this is, that my capacity is low right now. So I can only post once in a while, but I've been trying to post more lately because I also feel like sharing is therapeutic and it does also help me, even though it can be hard, but I gotta know when to take a break though. That was the other thing that I was just talking about is you have like taking a break. The other thing is they have extreme exhaustion and fatigue. I understand in a regular burnout you have that. Everybody gets that in a regular burnout. But in autistic burnout, this can be so severe that it makes talking difficult. It makes even doing the most smallest little task difficult. And it just, I have to homeschool my kid and try to keep the house nice and do my best to uphold things and also, keep love alive in my marriage. And that causes extreme exhaustion and fatigue for someone in autistic burnout. And it's also extreme executive functioning. This is not someone's fault if they cannot get up during autistic burnout. And it's really important to be understanding that if we push, it only depletes us even more. And that's the difference between regular burnout and autistic is it will deplete you so much that you're not going to be able to keep going on if you push. You have to literally do nothing but rest is the hard part during autistic burnout. Because if you don't, who knows how long it could last. It could be years if you don't listen to that. You have to lessen the load dramatically, unfortunately. You'll see more during this time emotional outbursts or shutdowns. That means autistic meltdowns or shutdowns, which can be extremely difficult because you have a lot more of them in autistic burnout. I myself can tell you that is so true because that's me. I do my best to have gratitude and love life, but right now, if I try to even do that, that's depletion. That's too much. I just have to relax and choose to allow myself to try to be calm. But it's really hard because you definitely have more conflicts and stuff because it's harder not to go into autistic meltdown during this time or shutdown, which is after the autistic meltdown. When you go into shutdown, that's usually me directly after that. I just can't handle anything anymore. And I have to make sure that I go to a zone like my bedroom where things are calm and I can feel more at peace and I can just be and try to re-regulate my body because my body's so tense, overloaded, and everything is too much that if I go out right now, I know things are not going to be okay. The other thing is avoidance of social interaction. That's a big one for me too. We went out yesterday, and right now, I cannot socialize as much because my battery is so low, and I'm trying to remember that. So we went hiking. We were with some other family members and stuff, and it was a lot of fun. But at the same time, even though I enjoyed it, the other thing is I'm experiencing what that's like the next day, though after you choose to do something, even if you feel a little bit better when you're in autistic burnout, if you choose to do something, then the next day your body could feel that and you could be like, now I need extreme rest and time to be in low stimulation environment. That's how it is for me because I had fun yesterday, but now I'm definitely feeling it today and I'm unfortunately went back into a crash of autistic burnout, which that's what happens when you do it. You will see a crash at times, even if you felt good that day before. The other thing is increased anxiety and depression. Everyone has anxiety and depression, yes, don't get me wrong. But this, especially in autistic burnout, and people that have autism and ADHD in general, have a hard time with that. So when they are in autistic burnout, these things can be more extreme. And the thing is, the depression, a lot of people get depression confused with autistic burnout. That was me for the longest time. So the thing to understand is autistic burnout feels way too much like depression and it can actually cause symptoms of severe depression with autistic burnout. The other thing that can happen is physical symptoms in autistic burnout. That doesn't usually happen as much, maybe headaches with just regular burnout. And this is more you just have to take a little bit of time and then you can usually go. But with autistic burnout, that's different. Like I said, it's prolonged and it could last for a really long time, is what you need to understand. And maybe be more patient, loving, and understanding if you know someone that seems like they just can't go anymore. There's a reason for that. I think one of the hardest things is having loved ones and people that don't, they say they understand what you're going through, but the only way they could is if they're literally you and they could experience what the world is feeling like. But unfortunately, there's no way to do that. So that's why the only way that I can help people understand this better is by sharing what the experience is like. But physical symptoms can be like headaches and stomach aches in autistic burnout. And that is something I have had some experiences with. Headaches more often, and I realize I even had them when I was younger. I recognize this now. And I've went through autistic burnout many times, even as a teenager and growing up. I've discovered what it was now. It makes sense. So I love that things are making sense, and that's how anyone feels that discovers these things. There are some times that I will feel nauseous if things are bad enough and stuff like that, and that is a symptom also of autistic burnout. And you also could have loss of appetite, which isn't even mentioned when I was reading, but I've read this before. And I've experienced loss of appetite many times too. So these are some of the things. I know this is a lot. And anyone that took the time to listen, if this spoke to you, I just hope you know that you're loved if this is something that you've experienced or someone you know is experiencing this. And just know the only thing you can do is give them understanding. And the only thing you could do right now is support them and love them in the best way that you can and be understanding because they're really not doing any of it on purpose. Anyways, if you came upon my channel and this spoke to you, I would love for you to follow me on my AuDHD journey. I just have a big passion to inspire people and love others, but not only that, to help others who are like me. So follow me if this spoke to you. You guys have a blessed day.